Going to be maintaining Windows itself. We want to be able to, main objective is to identify common preventive maintenance and update necessary to keep, obviously, Windows running and smoothly. Describe how to perform maintenance updates using the appropriate CLI or administrative tools or system utilities. Name which CLIs, administrative tools, or system utilities to use for a given update or preventive maintenance check, and identify the common pitfalls overall. Preventive maintenance can extend the computer's life and saves considerably a lot of money when it comes to IT. If we actually do preventive maintenance, it will avoid issues usually for slow performance or slow overall reaction from it. What are they? Well, the best practices of preventive maintenance include the following, which is scheduling your backups. Be surprised how many people fail to back up their systems. Schedule your disk maintenance, especially the hard drives that are spinning. Make sure you have your Windows updates and patch management running. One thing that our friend might tell you in one of our questions, driver and firmware updates. Never assume that just because you install the driver, it'll never be updated. There's patches even for drivers. And obviously, we need to make sure that our antivirus or anti-malware updates are being performed. We know that the tools that most of them are available within the operating system itself. We have backup, which is an access tool within Windows inside the control panel. You have system restore, which obviously lets you choose from, like we said, a previous version or a previous known good boot version of it. A lot of times, if you actually have the system restore on it and you install a driver or you install a card or you install something on it, it'll actually create another image so that it says, okay, right before you touched me, this is what it had. Now you can actually revert and come back if there was actually problems and it doesn't let you come up. You also have another way, which is the recovery image. It's a system image. Usually a lot of times they have it on the actual drive as a separate partition to be able to recover from an actual system image. An image obviously includes the drivers, Windows as it was running well, the default system program files that it came with. If you actually have the other one, which said is the check disk, is another one that you have. It's a Windows GUI, which actually lets you find and fix logical errors. And it also has the option for checking each sector of the physical drive and relocating any readable data. So it actually tried to get that from the damaged spots. You also have there's a GUI one too. You right click on the drive and hit check disk. Questions or doubts? Lastly, as we know, for all those spinning hard drives, you have Defrag. Defrag should be running on those to make sure that we fix. It reorganizes, as we said, the file storage. It moves everything around and it updates the table so that everything is stored in contiguous sectors or clusters. That way, it's not jumping everywhere to just get to one file. Any questions or doubts before we continue? All right. What is preventive maintenance? As we just stated a minute ago, using tools to increase the lifespan of PC, obviously. Try to avoid the breakdowns. Preventive maintenance is more than just manipulating hardware. It also encompasses running software utilities on a regular basis and keep the system fit. You can sometimes schedule these things. So if I come in here, I can schedule tasks on a computer. I don't know if you know that. You can go in my task scheduler. If I'm an administrator, create a script and add here at certain times that I want it to do a check disk, for instance. You put the time, I can put what the trigger is, the conditions, and the settings. all from this little task. In here also is where you'll find Microsoft's little tasks that it has for itself. Plethora of them. The purpose, obviously, for routine maintenance, as we said, is to try to keep the system file structure error-free. Obviously, it's going to prolong the life of the computer, and it alleviates the problem of slowness, especially when you're doing the defragmentations. So as we said, we have our scheduled backups, we have our disk maintenance, we have our Windows updates, patch management, driver firmware updates, and antivirus/malware protection updates. All these are a must. Questions or doubts? So backups are exact copies of key data. Never trust that the data is to one form of backup media. Disaster plans include the regular scheduling backup. These are the type. You have local or network in the building, and lastly, off-site cloud storage. Never put Humpty Dumpty just in all the eggs into one basket. Very dangerous. For disaster recovery, we should always have multiple copies of backups, specifically of servers we're talking about here. Obviously, not all users are going to have this robust backup, depending on how picky they are about their backup. A lot of users will just back it up locally, and that's it. But these are your three. Now, your types of backup. You have your full backup that's backing up all the data. Incremental backup is only the changes since the last full backup, or incremental backup. In other words, if on Sunday I did a full backup, Monday I did an incremental backup, on Tuesday it only do the difference from what happened on Monday to today. That's an incremental. Versus a differential backup, it only backs up from the last full backup. And working copies or shadow copies are actual partial or full backups kept at site for immediate. So usually those are the ones that you have in there. Be a tape somewhere stored, usually in a fire retardant cabinet, believe it or not. It looks like a safe. It's a big cabinet, but when you touch it, when you try to hit it, it won't even echo. That's how thick that thing is. Any questions or doubts on the types of storage or the types of backup? You guys familiar with your incremental backups? Differential backups?
I'm somewhat with it. Like, I get them sometimes mixed up, but I think I get what they are, though.
Okay.
Go there.
All right. So let's go into detail of it. Here's one scheduled backup. Here's our full weekly backup with the flavor of incremental backups. In the incremental backup, you have a Sunday, I did a full backup. Then Monday, I'm only going to do an incremental backup, and it only store changes after Sunday. And it marks the archive bit. It'll actually take the little check mark off of the archive bit. Anybody remember who the archive bit is? You guys remember the archive bit that I showed you the other day?
Yeah, that's in Windows where you say, hey, anytime you do a backup, I want you to make sure you back up this archive. Or unselect, meaning, hey, I don't care about this. If I do a backup, I'm not backing that up.
Correct. So what the tape drive or whatever it is, sorry, not the tape drive, what the software does, he'll come over here on a full backup. After he finishes with it, he's going to go like this. He'll unmark it, stating that obviously that this file has already been backed up. That's how he knows if the file was backed up or not. Now you went and changed the file, automatically Windows will put the little flag back on when you change the file so that it's ready for backup. So a full backup will then mark it. An incremental backup does the exact same thing. It's going to go and just look for the ones that have the check mark, back it up, and uncheck it. Variance of full backup is he can care less if the archive bit is on or off. He doesn't care. He's gonna make a full backup. Incremental backup looks for the check mark. If the check mark's there and is ready to be backed up, I'm gonna back it up, and then I'm gonna take off the check mark so that the next time I do an incremental backup, I don't look at that file until somebody edits and saves it. The moment somebody edits that file and saves it, Windows will mark it that it's archived, ready to be saved. Any questions or doubts? So let's say I had a problem with the drive, and it happened to be on Wednesday. How many tapes am I going to need?
1, 2, 3, 4 tapes.
Depending, obviously, on what time on Wednesday, right?
Yeah, I know you need a full backup and anything up to that date.
That's the downfall of incremental. What is the pro of incremental?
It's faster to implement.
Or faster to do, not implement.
Sorry, yeah, faster to do.
Yeah, so the first day is going to take, God only knows how many hours, right? The second day, it's only going to back up that data that changed from yesterday to today. So it's much faster than doing a full backup. It's only going to back up that data. What's amazing about these software features is that if you are looking for a specific file to actually recover, it'll tell you exactly which tape you need to put in if you're not doing a full recovery. Any questions on incremental backup or a full backup? Next one. You have the differential. If you'll notice here, on the differential though, it does a full backup, right? On Sunday, then on Monday, I'm going to do a differential. Tuesday, I do differential. Wednesday, I'll do differential. Thursday and Friday. You'll notice though, on Monday, he's going to back up everything that was changed since Sunday. The major difference is he will not uncheck the archive bit. The archive bit stays exactly how it is. That's what the differential does. On purpose, he's not going to mark it or uncheck it so that tomorrow when I come in, it's going to still back up that file. All except for whatever was on Sunday. So then it accumulates. If you'll notice, yes, on Monday is much faster than Sunday. Tuesday is a little bit slower than Monday. Wednesday is a little slower than Tuesday and Monday, you know, because it keeps on adding and adding and adding everything that's been added by that week. The pro obviously is when I want to recover, how many tapes do I have? If I want to do a full recover, how many tapes do I need?
I want to guess 2. You need a full backup and, oh, okay.
That is correct. You'll need the full backup and the last differential tape. The last differential tape. So if it happened Friday, you need Sunday's tape and you need Friday's tape. Questions or doubts on differential backup? Wow. So you have the full on Sunday. As you see, a lot of times they say Sunday. Some people do it on Saturday. Some people do it on Friday night, all depending on your operations and how you do it. But obviously, once a week, you want to make sure you have a full backup. Then on Monday, you'll see that the first tape is so small. The second tape is much bigger. The third tape gets bigger all the way up to Saturday. Every time since the last full backup on a differential, it'll make sure. Versus the incremental on the bottom, the little blue line, he'll just go from Monday back and then just Tuesday only up to Monday, Wednesday only up to Tuesday. That is the variance. You'll notice the blue lines are just daily backups of everything incrementing from the previous day to the next day. While the differential, the tape just gets bigger and bigger and bigger to the point that it almost will get obviously too saturated depending on the amount of data.
I have a question. Based on the graph, when you do incremental, is it backing up using Mondays, or it will always use Sundays?
Never uses, it's Sunday is a full backup. Has nothing to do with incremental. You have to have a full backup once a week.
Sorry, I missed said the question. Like, for example, for incremental to work, you need Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. When it starts doing the backup, does it need Tuesday, for example? Let's say you're doing a backup on Wednesday. Does it need Tuesday and Monday to do the backup, or it just kind of like goes straight to Sunday for the backup? Because I'm looking at the diagram and I see the diagrams like saying like Wednesday is gonna like as if it looks like a differential.
Let me show you here. This is Sunday, okay?
Mm-hmm.
This is midnight right here. Right here, this is midnight between Sunday and Monday. Pretend that the tape stopped at midnight, the full backup. On my Monday night, the only thing that it's gonna back up is from midnight to midnight. And then anything that has changed between 0 hours on the morning up to 0 hours on Tuesday, since I started it at that time, just making up a time here. If the archive bit is on, if and only if that little check mark was turned on because somebody changed the file, that's all it's gonna save. The files that are marked that is ready to be archived. Because when I did a full backup, it went in and it took the check mark off of all the files. All the files say that they're not ready to be archived because the files have been backed up and nobody's changed anything. The moment that somebody comes in on Monday, starts working on the files, they manipulate the files, Windows automatically turns on the archive bit saying it's ready to be archived. So then those files throughout the day that got the little check mark will be backed up. Only those files. It doesn't even look at the backup of Sunday, doesn't even know that the backup of Sunday even exists. Has no idea when it's doing the backup. All it's doing is looking what file has the archive bit on so I can save. That makes sense?
Yeah, I was just confused because I thought I was looking at the graph wrong.
This only tells you basically what data is it saving. Anything that has changed between Sunday to Monday when you started your backup, anything prior that has the archive bit turned on, ready to be saved or backed up, those are the files that it'll do in incremental. And when it finishes saving, it will uncheck that file to make sure that you do not back it up on the next incremental backup. Unless if somebody changes it, then it plays the game again. It marks it ready to be archived.
Okay, and I have one more question.
Mm-hmm.
I know in companies, they have a combination of this. So let's say you're doing full, differential, and incremental. How would that look like? And let's say if you get a failure, how would you back it up if you're using all three formats?
Unaware of anybody doing all three. I'm fully aware of using the two. In other words, or if you're really that picky, you could do full backups every single day. So you either use full backup with incremental or full backup with differential. Because look what happens. Let's say I do it the way you want. I'm going to do a full backup here. I'm going to do an incremental backup here. And then I'm going to do a differential backup. What's he going to copy on the third day?
On the third day?
Yeah. So I did a full backup on Sunday. I did an incremental backup on Monday. And then on Tuesday, I'm going to do a differential backup. What's going to happen? What's it going to back up?
You just got a duplicate, basically.
It's only going to back up technically up to the changes up to Monday night. And then what happens is, since I did a differential here, it will not uncheck the archive bit. That's all it's going to do on that third day. So then if I want to continue to do another differential, it'll back up Wednesday and Tuesday's data. And again, it won't mark the archive bit. So then when I do another one on Thursday, it's going to then back up all the information that changed from Thursday, Wednesday, and Tuesday. Make sense or no? But I haven't seen people use all three of them. Really, I mean, it's up to you depending, because some people do up to 30 days back. So maybe they'll do a differential backup until a certain day or something like that, and maybe do an incremental backup on the following week or something like that, and they don't do a full backup maybe until the 30th day. That is all depending on the company and how they want to do it. Just be fully aware that the more incremental backups you have, the more tapes are required to recover all of the data.
Okay. The reason why I asked that question is because I have done all three type of backups when I was working with Marriott. They do incremental every day, then every 2 weeks to do differential. And there's a very complicated part where every other Tuesday, you do a differential. Every 4 weeks, you do a full backup. And then after the backup, which is the backup's always done on Sunday, then on Tuesday, you have to redo a fresh tape. Meaning you have to get a fresh tape to empty something. I don't know why. You have to empty something with it. It's called the empty process. And then you have to attach the new differential backup tape, because these are all tapes.
Yes.
So they were using all three methods, where you always back up on Sunday. You use differential every other Tuesday. Some Tuesdays, and the system does it on its own. It will tell you what to do. Usually the system will tell you when to use the refresh tape or the actual tape. And then every day is incremental.
That's correct. The program lets you schedule it. That is correct. The backup program allows you to do the schedule how you want, and all you have to do is change the dates daily. That's all you got to do. That is correct. As long as you set it up the first time, you don't have to click anything daily. All you got to do is just make sure that you change the tapes. But it all depends on how the company wants it and what they want.
I think I get it now. It's not that you're not using the same method at the same time. It's you're using a method for a specific day or time, not using them together. I get it now. I thought you use them together sometimes.
It's depending on how you want to do it and what your needs are and what they want. It's all depending on how they want. As long as you're able to explain it to them and let them know. Obviously, maybe an incremental may be better because maybe operations really during the week can't be interrupted for too long. So an incremental may be a better choice for some companies to do. And like you said, maybe sometimes a differential every other Tuesday operations is not using it that much. So maybe I can do a differential then, which is obviously a bigger tape during the week. So restore points, Windows system protection, Windows backups system files and stores them at a regular intervals. Restore point is a snapshot of the system configuration, includes the Windows system files itself. Windows 7 creates a restore point every 7 days. Unfortunately, it's disabled by default on Windows 10. That's why I was telling you several times, make sure you have it on. It's a great tool for fixing a device and restoring the settings and solving problems with applications, drivers, and any other thing that you might have done. Applying a restore point. The system restore is the system to its condition at the time of the actual restore point. So be careful. Obviously, if there was files that were there throughout the day and somebody had stuff and you do this restore point, it will erase everything and put it back to where it was from that point. User's data is not altered. Can affect installed software, hardware, user settings, OS configurations. As I stated, whatever you did after that point is gone. Changes made are lost after the actual point, and I always use a most recent restore point for fixing your problem. Don't try to go for months away, because they're not only going to create you problems. Any questions, doubts? Disk maintenance, you have your hard drive maintenance can be broken into two distinct functions. You have your error checking itself, which is a scan disk and check disk, are command line utilities that check for bad clusters on the drive. Current Windows versions call the tool error checking. Mac OS calls it disk utility, and Linux is called FS check, file system check. That's what that means. When they find bad cluster, it puts a flag to avoid it. Like we said, the FFF7 on the cluster itself. So those clusters, it also tries to recover the data if possible from them. You can perform check disk on Windows by right-clicking the drive in Explorer and click on the properties. You should have a tools and it says check now. So if I come in to my drive, given drive itself, it'll allow me just to right-click on the drive, the C drive, D drive, whatever it is that I want to select, and do that. Same thing with Defrag. Questions or doubts?
I have a question. Is there maintenance in this slide related to RAM?
RAM? No.
No? Okay.
This is all, I believe this is only disk maintenance is what we're looking at right now. Are you saying the whole PowerPoint itself?
Yeah, like is there anything related to RAM? Maintenance, basically.
Not aware of that, no. First time I ever heard of something that to maintain memory.
Well, that's because I know in Windows 64 they had a way to check your RAM.
To check your RAM, but not maintain your RAM. Remember, it erases everything every time you turn it off. And therefore, what is it that I want to maintain and keep? One thing is checking it, but is it gonna, how is it gonna fix anything in there or try to keep anything in there? I'm not aware of anything in here that will give you that option. So this maintenance here is, you see they say check now, it shows it here. You can automatically fix system errors and you can scan and attempt to recover bad sectors. This is the GUI itself that does that. Questions or doubts? Obviously, this would take much longer if you try to attempt to recover bad sectors. Defragmentation, as we saw, is the next one. It's obviously, as we said, a rearrangement of all fragments of parts of files so that they all stored in continuous clusters. And obviously, it's going to increase the drive access. It's going to be much faster to access the file since it doesn't have to jump everywhere to be able to figure out where every part of a given file is. So, defrag, as you can see, that's what I defragged my zebra. That's so cute. I like this one. As you know what a zebra is a whole bunch of stripes. So if you can pretend that all his stripes have now been moved to just one side of him. Cute. Instead of being striped, now I defragged him. Any questions or doubts? This cleanup. Gets rid of 4 types of files. The files in your recycling bin, all of your temporary files that deal with internet, downloaded program files and temporary files. It checks for errors, compressed folders, moves files from folders to other drives, delete unneeded files occasionally, and Windows requires, as I stated, 15% hard drive space free. If it goes under 15, you're pretty much dead in the water. That's why I keep on saying 30. I always double what they say because as soon as you get to that 15%, you're gonna have trouble. Any question?
And the reason why is because of the compression, correct?
It has to open up Windows and spread itself out so that the Windows is in the working environment. Just like an Excel sheet, when you open up an Excel sheet, right? Or a Word document. I know if you guys notice, whenever you open up a document, it creates what they say as called as a temporary file or a file that it uses to actually unlock it. It creates an extra little file with like a little doohickey on it. Anyone ever see that? No? Yes? Maybe?
I have.
Yeah. It has like weird symbols on a name too.
Mm-hmm. All right. Similar to that, that's what it's doing with the OS, with the executable of the OS, or the execution of the OS. So when it's opening up and it's running everything and it has everything open, he needs that much space to live. He needs that extra space to spread out. Again, when it turns off, he compresses himself, takes off all those temporary files, nothing needed, go back to my sleep state. As soon as I wake up, I gotta decompress, open up everything, get your OS running, all those things that you see when the little flag is going on, that's what he's doing. He's opening up Windows, he's opening up all those files, getting it all up and running so you can be able to use it. This maintenance for cleanup, it's on the actual drive under the general tab itself. You could just hit this cleanup and it basically does that. Questions or doubts? Windows Update. Windows Updates obviously is the feature that they have to be able to keep their software running. You have important ones, you have recommended ones, and you have optional ones. You should set it always to install important ones. Don't wait. Important ones are important. Obviously, this is obviously in your house. In a company environment, a lot of these times, the actual they have a testing center of where they actually test, since a lot of these Fortune 500s have their own Windows. It's not a street Windows, it's a company Windows. They work with Windows, who gives them their Windows. You need to make sure that all important, all recommended, and all optional are tested before it is distributed to the domain. In Windows 10, though, users can no longer choose whether they receive and install updates. You could only delay it up to 8 days. Windows 10 major updates are delivered semi-annually basis. Any questions or doubts on updates or service packs? Now, make sure you understand the difference between an update and a service pack. They're pretty much the same. One is to update is to fix an individual problem or whatever it is that they're trying to send out. A service pack is usually a collection of updates all together, which they'll call SP1, SP2, SP3, and SP4, whatever it is that they're sending out throughout the year. So it's all those updates up to that point are coming out in one service pack. Questions or doubts? Patch management is the process of keeping a software update in safe and timely fashion. A patch update on a computer program to fix an issue called bugs. So whenever they send you a patch, it's a reference to a bug or a security patches to help vulnerabilities with the actual program and or OS. They can be set to download automatically and should be. Windows Update can be configured in Windows 7 to look for install patches themselves. Patches should be checked and tested machines before applying them to production machines. It could take down your computer, as I stated, so you need to make sure whatever patch you're putting on there does actually work, because if not, you could take down a computer. You need to make sure, especially if you install the wrong patch on the wrong computer, could create a humongous issue. Any questions or doubts? Driver and firmware updates. Programs use drivers, which is a small software file, and sometimes need to be updated to reflect the changes of the hardware. Even though you may go and buy a brand new wireless card, exact same model as the one you have, believe it or not, before you do anything, even though it may recognize it, the first thing you need to do is download the latest drivers. Make sure that that system has its updated driver. Questions or doubts? These things usually happen in the background. Or you can manually do it by going into the device manager, right-clicking and clicking Update Driver. Questions or doubts? Antivirus and anti-malware update. The anti-malware programs should automatically have these things. They usually actively seek and destroy mode or passive mode, depending on the actual program. Since it's protecting the integrity of the computer, it's very vital that we maintain this every single day. So if something comes out today for malware, you better be getting it. Don't wait. Your system should be able to check this is not updates of patches. This is not updates of Windows. This is not a service pack. We're talking about the actual anti-malware program daily. It's going to be a question somewhere. I'm pretty sure they're going to ask you that type of question. That's the major one you need to know. New viruses and other malware appear daily, as we know, and antivirus needs to be kept up to date through updates, and the list of viruses are called the definition file. That's the file that the anti-malware program has to be able to go and look at the actual heuristic of the file and compare it to see if it is or not. Your maintenance tools within Windows is a system utility programs and your CLI tools and your administrative tools. Your system utility program has many utilities, obviously. One is computer management, as we've seen before. I'm able to go into task scheduler, event viewer to see all the events. I can see the actual device manager, my performance, my disk management, all within computer management. Questions or doubts on computer management? Next, your task scheduler is a tool to view and customize scheduled task addition. You could even, like I said, create your own task in here that you want to create, and it will run the task. So you can hit create, or you can import tasks depending what it is. Windows has its own built-in task schedules that it has depending on all the programs and or resources that it has. They usually install for patch management and or any other things that's going on in the background. Questions or doubts? Task scheduler. Event viewer. It's a log that stores, as we stated, and you can actually see all the events. It could also tell you everything from the software installation of application, crashes, and even blue screens of deaths. The errors is stored in here. Any questions on the event viewer? Okay. Your performance monitors is that. It is able to examine how programs are running and affecting the performance of your computer. You've got real-time analysis of your memory. You got your actual CPU and hard drive. You could also check your network. You got all this in here you can view. You got the full overview. You can go directly to CPU, memory, disk, or network to see what's being pounded. I would like to say pounded or used. I don't know any other word except for that one. Anybody knows a different word than that? Device manager. That obviously is the classic Windows device manager. Allows you to see the devices that are connected. You can disable them, enable them. And if you'll notice, this one has an information, or I'm sorry, a little exclamation mark with a thing. I can right click on that one and actually check to see what's going on with that given device. Whenever there is a problem, if you'll notice, this one here is administratively down. That means I disabled that one. You see how it has like a down arrow? This one is a little triangle with an information. So each one will let you know if there is a problem. And automatically it expands to show you the ones that it has problem. It usually has it collapsed, as you see all these other ones, instead of expanded out when you first open it. Task Manager. In this view, you're able to do and monitor everything, including the actual PIDs of any other processes. So you can see the process ID itself and look at all the services. You can go to actual processes themselves or view it by applications. Likewise, you can come in here and see the performance, network, or users inside the Windows Task Manager. Questions or doubts? Next one here is the system configuration, also known as MS-config, utility that allows you to edit and troubleshoot OS programs, startup processes, and services. If you'll see here, you have boot, you have services, you have startup, and you have tools. And if I recall correctly, I believe Task Manager now has startup, if I'm correct. Is it that? Yeah.
Yeah, the new Windows has that.
Startup is now here. It's no longer over there. So just FYI. Although it says it is, if you go into system config or MS config, you won't find that tab anymore here. And a matter of fact, if you try to go there, it's going to tell you to go here. That's the funny part. Any questions or doubts? So all of these things, I recommend that we go and play around with them inside our virtual box machines so that we could be able to see the normal start, diagnostic startup. I can set up selective startup, tell it how I want it to start up next time. I can say what's going to boot, safe mode, boot log mode, 30 seconds, how far. I can put it to 0 so it automatically goes there. If I have several OSs, I can actually set it up. I can tell how many processors, which services to turn on. And if you'll notice, when I go to Startup tab, it's going to ask me to click onto Open Task Manager so I can see this over here. Lastly, you have your tools. Any questions on system config? So, system config and startup process steps accessing SMS config reduces the process. Obviously, you can go and type MS config. I said, you click MS config on the result as I did, and automatically you can go to startup. You'll see that obviously it has the list of programs as I showed you a moment ago. When the PC boots, it also starts up other programs like your antivirus. If you have the Microsoft OneDrive, your Adobe, your Bluetooth software, your sound software, CCleaner, and or any other stuff that you may have in the startup, they're all there. You can actually stop the programming from actually booting up with a uncheck of the actual program. And with these, obviously, as we stated, in Windows 10, it's in Startup tab, is actually in the Task Manager, not in the MS config as in previous one. So you'll see here in the Startup one, I just need to uncheck anything here that I want to check. So let's say something was giving me problems to boot up. I can come in here and disable all of them, boot it up, and then one by one, turn it on. I know it's annoying, and let it boot up until it crashes. The moment I get to that last one that I turned on, now I know obviously that was my cause. Questions or doubts? Right, command lines within Windows. MD makes a directory. RD removes a directory. CD changes your directory from one to another. DEL deletes files or directories. Copies actually copies a file into a second location. Xcopy is obviously a new and more robust one. It's an extensive copy, and it's designed to copy directories as well, not just files. Robocopy is the most robust one that came out for Windows 7, 8, and 1. Has a big advantage being able to accept specifications and keep your NT permissions intact. No more having to make sure that my read-only and my full or whatever rights I had on that being lost when I copy. Another one that we have is this part, which obviously shows you the partitions. It lets you manage them and lets you mess with them. Very careful, obviously. We can extend, we can create smaller partitions with this, but this is a very dangerous messing with partitions. You need to know what you're doing. So be very careful and make sure that you're doing any of these things, once again, in your virtual machines. Please, please break your virtual machines, not your real machines. Gpupdate, as we mentioned, is an administrative command that lets you force a device to update its policies after it's changed. So I went and I updated the global policy in the whole company. What I could do, or I might have done it to that specific PC or that ID. So what I could do from my command prompt, I can actually hit Gpupdate to the ID or to that computer, and it will send the update to the machine. GP result is the list of currently applied defective policies on an actual device. Question on any of them? Next one, system info. As we know, it gives a detailed information overview, can be specified to return only requested part through using the syntax as system info find, and then you say exactly what you're looking for inside quotes. Check this, as we know, attempts to repair the files. You have F or R. You say the volume and you say F or R. Anyone know what is the variance of F or R?
F is for checking for errors. And I'm gonna guess R is for repairing sectors.
Okay. F is to fix errors on the actual disk, so it attempts to fix it, while R locates the bad sectors and recovers readable information. It automatically implies F also when it's scanned. So F is just that it tries to fix errors only. So on top of that, if you want it more robust, is the /R, it will attempt to recover the readable information, and it will try to fix any bad sectors. SFC is a system file checker, which scans thousands of files, system files, comparing them to the original files. So this is in reference to the system files. In other words, Windows system files. If it finds that one of them is deleted, mismatch, or whatever, it replaces it with the original file of Windows. Options include scan now, scan once, or scan during boot. DIR is to see and view the listing of files in a given folder that exists within that directory or subdirectory or folder itself. That's what it is. DIR, my directory. task kill. You can actually kill tasks from DOS instead of going into the task manager. In task kill utility, it lets you to terminate the process. The process can be identified by the PID, or the process identification number. The processes can exist on the machine where an administrator is sitting, obviously, and he can do, for instance, in this one, task kill, you put /im chrome.exe now /f. So now he's doing it by the name instead of by the PID. Next is a task list. The task list, so you could understand, is what task manager does. He does both of these commands. So if I go into my task manager, where's details? Obviously, this is here it is, details. This is what he's going to show you. Here's all the task lists. Here's my PID. So when I open this, he runs it in the background and he looks at all the tasks. If I type this inside DOS, it's just going to give me the list of all the tasks and the corresponding task IDs. Any questions or doubt? Reiax Command. This Reiax Command authenticates you to a remote PC and lets you run commands on them. In other words, if I put Reiax, then I put the remote PC name, and then I put defrag its D drive, it will attempt to connect to that remote PC and defrag the D drive. Shutdown. In shutdown means exactly that. You have shutdown -S, shutdown -R, and shutdown, so you can minor that flag M. And there's one more. Does anybody know what's shutdown /A? So in shutdown, you have A, abort. So you have /L to log off, S to shut it down completely, R will actually full shutdown and it will restart, and then A will abort it in case if you decide that you're wrong. And this is the reason why I hate the ping -T, because here T means timeout. In other words, if I say shutdown /T and I give it 100, it'll wait 100. And the greatest it will wait is 10 years. Don't understand why you would want 10 years later to turn off your computer. But we can go with that. In case if you forget from 10 years, right? Leave it on for 10 years. Bootrec. Bootrec utility can be used to interact with the MBR, boot sector, or boot configuration data that is stored. The options here is bootrec are fix boot to write a new boot sector, fix MBR to write a new MBR, rebuild BCD to rebuild the BCD itself, the boot configuration data, or the scan OS to scan the disk for installation for boot manager menu that is not listed. That's what bootrec can do. Format. That is a command within actual DOS also. So you can actually do format C with whatever switch you want. FS will put a file system on it. So if you did a FAT32 partition, or format, you can do any of these right here, depending on the file system you want. /V labels the volume, and /Q does a quick format. So if I want to format D, FS, NTFS states that the partition is going to be, that the format is going to be NTFS, and then the /V says that its name, the name of the volume is HDD. Questions or doubts? Administrative tools. Many of the administrative tools, such as computer management, MMC, snap-ins, include their own help topics. Windows Firewall and Advanced Security. Configure the advanced firewall settings both on the computer and remote computers themselves if you connect to remote computers. As we stated, inside the MMC, I can basically add a snap-in of any of my applets and remotely connect to any computer with that applet. Windows Memory Diagnostic is the one that you were alluding to earlier. So you can check the memory itself to see if the memory is functionally properly. But it doesn't go and fix the memory, which is why I was getting confused on what your question was earlier. Next is you have the print management, which manages the printer and print servers and network, depending on obviously if you have administrative rights or not, and for the ones that are on any given server. Local security policy, the review, edit the policies within the actual PC, and component services to be able to configure and administer any component, object model, or COM components. Components services is designed to use by developers. You wouldn't be touching this much. And if you would be touching it, the developer will be telling you what they want you to do with their services. They will give you the instructions. Resolving pitfalls. Many issues arise when performing updates and maintenance. While maintaining maintenance, pitfalls may include non-system problems occurring during an update or a patch. To avoid this, please, oh please, don't ever mess with PCs, especially when you're trying to do these things without a UPS. If you lose a power source when doing these things, you could wind up losing the hard drive if you're messing with the hard drive itself. Automatic updates can cause conflicts with programs not responding correctly or hardware stops working, as I told you. That might be the reasons why we then want to either uninstall the update or revert back to a known good boot. One of the dangerous things here is a motherboard's firmware upgrade. Power loss during installation can lose the whole BIOS. And obviously, if you don't install it correctly, the version, it may require you to replace the whole computer itself. Permanent damage will occur with the BIOS, because if the BIOS is unresponsive, there's nothing that's allowing me to talk to the motherboard. Backup not completing. It hangs, error misses, says disk full. Solution, obviously, follow the help dialog to resolve the issues on the actual software. Questions, doubts? Friend Professor Messer has the news for us.
So Lit Mobile just sent me this solar wireless battery pack. I'm excited. Let's see what's inside.
There you go.
I really like the build.
Your answer
It's
for
got
the other day.
hand grips on the side. It's shockproof.
You're probably aware that you can start many of the Windows utilities by themselves. So you can launch Event Viewer or Performance Manager, and they'll run as separate applications. But you can also take a lot of these administrative tools and run them all from one single view called Computer Management. This is a pre-built version of the Microsoft Management Console. You can think of it as plugging in all of these different utilities to one screen, and you can run it all from Control Panel under Administrative Tools and choose Computer Management. If you wanted to build your own computer management screen with your own plugins, you can start the Microsoft Management Console by itself by starting mmc.exe. When you start computer management, you will see that many of the common administrative tools you already use are now in this one place. So things like Task Scheduler, Event Viewer, Shared Folders, Local Users and Groups, Performance Manager, and so much more. It's a very easy way to access everything from one screen. On our computers, we have hardware, and then we also have an operating system. But we need something that can tie together the operating system to the hardware, and that something is a device driver. This is the key to having the operating system be able to access and use different types of hardware. These device drivers are specific to the hardware that we're using, and they have been written explicitly for the operating system that we happen to be running. You can't use a Windows 8.1 device driver in Windows Vista, for for example. That's why when we always talk about a piece of hardware not working properly, one of the first things we'll ask is, have you updated the device driver to the latest version? This might solve some of the problems you're having with accessing that particular piece of hardware. To be able to see all of the different device drivers that are currently running in Windows and what their current status is, you simply run Device Manager. You can also find this under Computer Management, or you can start Device Manager by running devmgmt.msc. If you're not part of a large Windows domain and you're the only one who's really using your computer, then you may find that you're one of the very few users that are on this particular system. There might be many people using your computer. You may want to have a different user account for each one of those people. There are other accounts that you will also find on your computer, though. There's the administrator account, which is in Windows the super user. The administrator has access to anything in the operating system. You might also find a guest account, although by default this account is disabled, but if you have a need to provide someone with limited access and temporary access to your computer, you might want to consider using the guest account. Everybody else who's using this computer, yourself and whoever else would log in, would be a regular user on this computer, and you'd find them under the different users inside of the Users and Groups utility. In Windows, you can take a list of users who might need to perform a particular function, or they might need access to a particular set of files or folders, and you can create a group from that list of users. There are many different built-in groups within Windows. There's a group for administrators, there are backup operators, there's a guest group, there are power users, and you can even define additional groups and assign rights and permissions to those groups as well. When you're working for a large organization, all of the Windows devices are generally managed through Active Directory, and there's one place to go to set all of the security policies for everybody in the organization. But if you're one person who's working on a computer that's not managed by Active Directory, you might want to set up your own local policies for security. Things like enforcing a password history, setting a maximum password age, a minimum password age, a minimum password length, and similar security policies. These are features that are not available in the home versions or home editions of Windows. You would really only find the local security policy utility under Windows Professional or Pro versions. You'll also find it in the Ultimate and Enterprise versions as well. It's sometimes interesting to see a real-time view of statistics. You need to know what the current utilization is or how much disk utilization is being used. But what if you wanted to gather that information over a very long period of time? To do that, you use a utility called the Performance Monitor. This will gather long-term statistics, and you can start the Performance Monitor from the control panel under Administrative Tools. This will show you metrics such as operating system disk usage, memory utilization, CPU utilization. You can even set alerts, so if these values exceed a certain amount, you can be informed that that's occurring. You can also set automated actions so that things might occur automatically if disk utilization gets to a certain point. This is also a great way to store this information over time, so you can set up the Performance Monitor, just have it gather the statistics, and later on you can come back and look through all of the data that's been stored onto that system. This also includes a number of built-in reports, so you're able to create graphs and reports from all of these metrics that you've collected over time. A Windows service is an application that runs in the background. It doesn't have a user interface associated with it, and we usually don't interact directly with the service itself. This might be the file indexing service that's in Windows, or the antivirus process that's always running behind the scenes and looking for viruses. You can find a list of all of these services in the Windows Services utility. This utility is very good if you ever need to troubleshoot things during the startup process. You can disable and enable services and see if that solves some of the problems that you might be having. You can also start and stop these services from the command line. Use the net start command and the net stop command with the name of the service to be able to enable and disable that particular service. If you need to get to the services screen, you can find that in the control panel under Administrative Tools and Services, or you can run it as services.msc. There may be times when you would like your operating system to perform a particular function or run a particular program at a particular date and time. It's very common to have Task Scheduler be able to defragment our drive every night or perform a normal backup every week. This also includes a number of predefined schedules, so all you need to find is the right task that you would like to perform and then configure it to run at a particular time and date. These are also organized and managed through folders. You can see there are some particular tasks that are set set for Bluetooth, others for diagnoses, others for maintenance, and others for mobile PC. So it should be able to find exactly the task that you're looking for. To start the task scheduler, you want to go to the control panel under Administrative Tools and choose Task Scheduler. If you're an application developer, you're probably familiar with the Component Services utility. This is where you would manage applications that are built with the Microsoft Component Object Model. These are applications that are distributed. They run in very large enterprises, and generally, if you're someone who is writing these applications, you'll be configuring a lot of settings within Component Services. These applications that are written with the Component Object Model are relatively complex, and you'll find in Component Services, not only do you have the configuration for the COM+ applications, but you also have direct access to the event viewer and to the Windows services. One challenge for application developers is that different people may want to store information into different kinds of databases. So instead of the application developer writing all of their code for a specific kind of database, the developer can instead write their code to use an ODBC driver. ODBC stands for Open Database Connectivity, and you can find all of the Windows configurations for ODBC under the ODBC data sources. This allows the application developer then to create an application that really doesn't care what the backend database is. This ODBC is really the middleware between the application and the database. This is very similar to when you're printing to a printer. The application that you're using has no idea what the printer is. Instead, it's printing to a print driver, and the print driver is then printing to the printer. Same idea in this case. The application developer is using the ODBC driver, and the ODBC driver is then using the database. You would configure all of these ODBC data sources in Control Panel under Administrative Tools. Your end users will probably not be configuring this. You'll probably be configuring this in conjunction with your database and your application administrator. We all certainly have a requirement to manage the printers that are in our environment, and you can find the print management in Windows under Control Panel, Administrative Tools, and Print Management. Inside of Print Management, we can certainly see the list of all of the printers in our environment. We can configure and manage those printers from this one central utility. This is also a good place to add and manage the printer drivers, so that when you bring in a new computer, the printer drivers are stored in the Print Management, and you can easily download those and install them onto these new systems. If you'd like to test the memory that you've just installed into a computer, or you'd like to see if the existing memory modules are working properly, you can use the built-in Windows Memory Diagnostics utility. The Memory Diagnostic will run through all of the memory that you have in your computer to see if it can find any problems with reading or writing information to those memory modules. To start the Memory Diagnostics application from within Windows, you can go to the Control Panel under Administrative Tools and choose Memory Diagnostics.
So, we are number 1. Who's coming with me? To make a drive, to make sure a drive is healthy, you need to search for repair file system errors using Windows blank command line utility. Is it A, defrag, B, check disk, C, analyze, or D, optimize?
B.
B as in boy or D as in David?
B as in boy.
That is correct. Check disk it is. Next one. How often does Windows 7 8.1.10 automatically defrag a hard drive?
Once a day.
Defragmentation of a hard drive.
It's a week.
It's either A, once a week, B, once a day, C, once a month, or D, every hour.
Vote is for A.
Everyone agree? A?
I think it's B, but I guess it could be A too, of course.
The automatic settings by default is once a week. Once a week. Once a day is our anti-malware that goes and updates itself. That's the one that we said was once a day. Which of the following are recommendations for freeing up disk space on a hard drive? Choose all that apply. Is it A, format the hard drive? B, delete the Windows system directory. Ooh, that'll really do it.
Definitely be.
C, uninstall software you no longer use. Or D, use drive compression. Mm, 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 mm.
D&D?
You want to free up disk space, and you said I do Bravo and who?
No, I said C and D.
Oh.
Yeah, definitely Bravo.
Yeah, that'll do it real quick. You'll save a lot of space. Might as well just erase everything. But yeah, I would say uninstall any software you no longer use. That's one way, and basically compression of the hard drive will be another one that you can do. Number 4, obviously those are the choices they gave us. There's other choices out there, right? I can do disk cleanup. Number 4, for optimal performance, how much free space does it need? Minimum needs. I said,
15%.
yes, sir, 15. You go under that, he no go bye-bye now. Next, number 5, besides backing up users' data or system files, you can also back up the entire volume on which Windows 7 Windows 7 installed using what?
Backup and restore.
Everyone agree?
Yeah.
That's what it's called. I believe that's it. That's all she wrote, folks, for this one. Any questions and or doubts?